Hello and welcome to the online training module on early childhood and development, socio-emotional development. This training is a collaborative effort between the Center for Early Education and Development at the College of Education and Development and the Center for Advanced Studies in Child Welfare at the School of Social Work at University of Minnesota. This training module is part of an online training effort that covers a wide range of topics in child welfare. In this module, I'm going to talk about socio-emotional development in early childhood, including current research findings in this area. Welcome to the online training series. I am Rukmini Avadhanam. I am a graduate student at the University of Minnesota and I will be guiding you through this module. Let's begin with a brief overview of the module. This module will draw on theories from socio-emotional development in children related to child welfare practices. These modules serve as a brief introduction to the topic. This section is meant to be a brief overview. We recommend that you go over the resource page to get a deeper insight into the topics that you find relevant. This module will provide a brief overview of the following topics: theoretical models for socio emotional development, introduction to socio emotional development in children, parental influences in socio emotional development, and infant mental health implications. Let's begin with a small introduction. A child's social and emotional development are fundamentally entwined. Changes in these domains happen across the first few years of life and they are dynamic. From a very young age, infants' emotional experiences are complex. They engage others in interaction, express delight, and convey feelings of sadness or anger through facial expressions. There are some theoretical models that are important for social and emotional development. A gene environment interaction model. This explains ways in which individuals' biological propensities interact with the environmental characteristics. That is, how our genes or biological characteristics interact with the environmental characteristics to shape the course of one's development. Attachment theory talks about how early interactions with child care providers promote survival and form attachment. Temperament model. This talks about individual differences, how varying characters in children shape their experiences of the environment and the responses to it. Transactional models. They look at the interplay between child and context across time continuously as a dynamic process. So let's transition into social and emotional development that happen in the initial years of life. The first years of life include dramatic change across multiple domains. There are periods of rapid change and reorganization, behavioral shifts, and transitions. In the first 2 3 months, rapid neurological changes happen. Infants spend more time awake, focused, and organized. Infants display social smiles, vocalizations in response to social encounters that are more responsive to caregivers. From 7 to 9 months, infants can discriminate between the care given by primary attachment figures and less familiar others. This period is called onset of focused attachment. Memory and cognition advances bring more expectations in social routines and interactions. During the 18 to 21 months period of life, there is emergence of self awareness and symbolic representation. Infants display more independent social interactions facilitated by language. Child understands affective expressions from parents and responds through them in other situations. Toddlers display more self-conscious emotions like shame, guilt, and empathy. So let's delve into emotional development particularly. There is emotion development of expression. Newborns display limited range of emotions, but as they grow older and responsive to the environment, early appearing primary emotions include distress, joy, and interest. During the first year of life, there is jealousy, heightened anger, increased negative affect when the attention of preferred caregiver is directed towards another. In the second year of life, there is more self conscious emotions like embarrassment, shame, guilt, and pride. There are certain factors that determine emotional development, like cultural, social, and biological factors that determine the types of reactions a child can have to specific situations. Social referencing is the infant's ability to use others' expression to shape their own responses to the environment. Emotional eavesdropping. Toddlers use information from interadult emotional expressions to determine whether to approach an object. Let's talk about temperament, genes, and emotions in infancy. So, different children have different emotional reactions to the same type of experiences. For instance, delight versus fear of a jack in the box. Genes and brain receptors have been shown to impact emotional reactivity in infants. Environmental factors also interact positively or negatively with genetically based temperamental risk. But why is temperament important and what is its role in emotions? Temperament is biologically based set of behavioral tendencies that influence how individual will approach, respond to and interact with the larger social world. Children have different emotion makeup that leads to different temperamental variations. Researchers studied multiple temperamental dimensions in infancy and how these different tendencies influence individual approaching the world. So there are different temperamental groups that include easy, difficult and slow to warm up children. Difficult group of infants, for instance, showed high levels of negative mood, irregularity in body functions, and slow adaptations to the environment. Infants with negative emotional behaviors had more behavioral problems, exhibited fear and inhibition as they grow older. So, let's move on to talking about social development. Social development milestones in the first 3 years of life are rooted in the brain development and also in the social context of the child. Social development progresses from parent infant relationships to other relationships like extended family, peers, and child care relationships. Interactions of children with others lead to children learning more about themselves and the others that they are interacting with. This brief table talks about different social development tasks and contexts and milestones in the first 3 years of life. So, for instance, if the developmental task is regulation in the social context of primarily parent infant relationship, parent assists the infant in regulating sleep, feeding, and distress and arousal. Some milestones for this include developing attentiveness to the social world, increasing coordination of parent infant interactions. This particularly happens in 0 to 3 months period. If we talk about emerging sociability, primarily this is parent infant relationship that has coordinated behavior like parent led system, coordinated engagement with the infant, face to face interaction with increasing mutual gauge, parent language, and verbalization towards infant. Some milestones include increased eye to eye contact, emergence of smiles, and social vocalizations. This happens in 2 to 3 months. During this 3 to 6 month period, there is reciprocal exchange, parent infant and close family relationships. There is back and forth exchanges between infants and others, where infant increasingly is responsive to social bits. During the 6 to 9 month period, there is infant initiative from the infant, parent infant, and close family relationships, infant initiation to play with others, and increasing ability to direct activities. There is evidence of intentionality and goal direction. Infant shows a preference for certain activities and leads attention. There is delight in games like peekaboo. During 7 to 18 month period, there is onset and establishment of focused attachment in parent and infant relationship. Parent provides secure base. Infant relies on the parent for comfort and protection. Infant explores the environment in the presence of the caregiver. There is stranger anxiety, separation distress, emergence of person permanence, and there is secure base behavior. If we move on to 9 to 12 months period, there is emergence of joint attention in a broader social context. Infant displays awareness of others in point of view. Infant seeks others' facial expression to understand new situations. There is imitative learning, there is social referencing, and expressing affect instrumentally or purposefully. In the 18 to 24 month period, there is self assertion and independent self concept in the broader social context. Infant has an awareness of self, determines and selects his or her own goals and intentions apart from parents. There is mirror self recognition, use of no and temper tantrums, increased autonomy, and egocentric reasoning. In the 18 to 36 month period, there are multiple things that are happening. There is recognition, continuity, emergence of goal corrected partnership, where child displays emerging awareness that the caregiver's intentions are separate from his or her own. There is emerging recognition from permanence and continuity of primary relationships. There is establishing peer relationships as well during this period with siblings and peers. Child engages in meaningful interaction with siblings and peers in playgroups, increased interest in other children, solitary to parallel play, and tumble play with peers. So I'd like for you to give this table a very good read to understand different milestones of social development across the first 3 years of a child's life. So let's move on to parental influences on infant emotional and social development. Caregiving context is a very critical thing in the development of infant attachment, security, and socio-emotional development. There are several domains of parental and caregiver influence in socio-emotional development of a child. In this module, let's talk about some of these domains and how parent attachment relationship representations and how they impact children. The main thing that we'll be talking about is caregiving sensitivity. Maternal caregiving and response to distress is suggested to be important for infant relationships. Child temperament, child care context, and emotional availability also were studied to shape infants and child socio-emotional development. Role of fathers in socio-emotional development. The role of fathers in socio-emotional development has only been studied recently. There is a lot to say that paternal behaviors like the ability to emotionally be supportive and challenging during play and interactions may have an important role in supporting infants exploration. Mind mindedness and socio emotional development. What is mind mindedness? It refers to a parent's tendency of treating infants as individuals with mind. Some research suggests that mothers' mind minded comments during interactions with infants are correlated to behavioral sensitivity, interactive synchrony, and they also predict attachment security. In talking about all of these, let's talk about some mental health implications for infants. Infant mental health intervention models primarily focus on the assessment and treatment of infants in social and relational contexts. Recent studies show that infant attachment outcomes are most improved when services are delivered to a clearly defined risk population with a focus on enhancing parental sensitivity. Studies also explain that proximal parenting behaviors, that is, being close to the infant, holding them, body stimulation, they are highly predictive of child outcomes and they overcoming early insecure attachment histories. How do these implications on social and emotional development relate to child welfare workers? It is important to understand to work with relationship based practice. Emphasizing relationships and the context of relationships is important. Supporting attachment in relationships while working with parents is essential. Looking closely at the baby's experience of a relationship, parents' experience of the relationship, both with the baby and the child welfare worker. Weaving socio emotional skill building into daily play and learning activities of children. So, I'd like to end this module with a small summary of what we have covered in this module. We took a look at what social and emotional development trajectories of children are, how they're entwined together, and how they develop dynamically in the first few years of life. We talked about different cultural, social, and biological factors that impact the emotional development of a child, and also about social development progresses from parent infant relationships and other extended relationships and how all these implications guide child welfare workers. So, I'd like to thank you all for watching this video. I invite all of you to go over the resource page on this topic and feel free to reach out to Cashew or CED for more information. We look forward to any feedback that you may have for us. Thank you so much.